The web has been part of powerful manipulation. Using social media, people have been manipulated into voting for something that's not in their best interest.
Do you think there's a design flaw in social media?
It's human nature to be attracted by things which make you angry. Social media is deliberately designed to keep you on the platform by being addictive. So people end up scrolling through TikTok forever. So if you want people to not build addictive systems, then you have to specifically outlaw addictive systems. Moving from the attention economy, when there's all of the apps on your phone vying for your attention, to an intention economy. When you use apps to do what you want to do, it's more empowering for the individual. Best case scenario, we have very powerful AI, which finds cures for cancer.
Is that a real risk, superintelligence? Tim Berners-Lee, welcome to New Scientist HQ.
Thank you for having me.
It's really great to be talking to you, especially now, as it feels like we're at such an interesting moment for the history of technology, but also our species. We've got 5.5 billion people online, and that's 70% of the planet's population. And of course, 35 odd years ago, you became the first web user as the inventor of the World Wide Web. It's brought about a complete and utter revolution in almost every aspect of our lives, from how we communicate to how we shop. And it's also starting to show a few signs of wear and tear. We've got misinformation, social media excess, polarization, government overreach, cyber attacks, election manipulation. And that's before we've even mentioned AI, so we've got a lot to talk about. But I wanted to begin with this. I was thinking about just how much of a unique position you are in. I mean, obviously very few people have invented something as transformative as the web. But even those who you might put in that category, they've not really managed to see the fruits of their transformations. You know, you've got Gutenberg died before his printing press really took off. You had Alexander Graham Bell didn't even see the first transatlantic phone call. Yet the web, the transformation has just been so swift, and you've been here to kind of guide it to relative maturity. So what are your reflections on that? What has it been like to create something so profoundly transformative and watch the effect that it has had?
Well, things have got swifter and swifter, I suppose.
Yeah.
Looking at it originally, the load on the very first server went up by a factor of 10 in the first year, and then it went up by a factor of 10 in the second year, and then the third year it went up by a factor of 10 again.
Yeah.
And so even back then we could see that we were onto something. That we had to basically buckle up and hold on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I want to take you back to those early days, and like the story of the invention, I guess, is fairly well known now, that you were working at CERN, the particle physics lab, in the late 1980s, and your kind of key insight was that hyperlinks would be a better way to navigate the internet. And kind of a burst of coding later, you invent HTML, a programming language for creating web pages. You create HTTP, a protocol for sending web pages and URLs away for finding and locating them. Did you know then, how much did you know then about what you were about to unleash? Or did it feel like just a kind of fun side project?
It was a side project, but it wasn't a 10% time thing. It was a 120% time thing. I mean, if you're going to invent the web, CERN's a pretty good place to do it because it has people from all over the world who have this desperate urge to need to communicate and to document their lives and their systems. Once you get the idea of what the web could be like, then you really, I am the first few people who sort of did get it. There are very few people, but those who did would be very passionate, and they worked really hard to try to get there. The crucial thing was that it was universal. Didn't matter what computer you used, didn't matter what network you used.
Yeah. So you've written this new book, This Is For Everyone, and I've also been reading your previous book, Weaving the Web, from 1999. So that's quite a big gap between books.
It is. Time for a new one, yeah.
Time for a new one, yeah. Why is it time for a new one? What made you decide to write this one?
Well, a lot has happened since the last one. I think also not all of the web is how we would like it.
Yeah.
I think there are lots of issues with it. And so partly charging a course to a new place. So the last couple of chapters are about where we could go to. Imagine the web were different. Imagine that we had more, imagine that individuals had that sense of digital sovereignty. So initially it was you'd be able to make a website, and other people could make a website, and you could link to whoever's website you like. The power of the linking to anything. You could link to the New Scientist website, or you could link to your friend's website. And the New Scientist and your friend were basically were peers. And that was a tremendously enabling, powerful thing for individuals. And it led to this long tail. It led to a lot of material being produced by small people and medium-sized people. And so that long tail ended up producing a huge amount of benefit. And we've lost the long tail. Now everybody is on the same social media platform.
One of the things that you outline in the book that I really found fascinating was like some of those early decisions you made about the web. You know, it's everything from like the technical decisions around protocols and standards, but also even like to what it should be called. And like, I was kind of excited, but also a little bit sad to know at one point it might have been called Tim. As a fellow Tim, you know, the information mine, I was a little sad to hear that didn't win out. But looking back now, and you know, as you say, there are a few problems with the web today. What were the decisions that you felt that you really got right? And were there any that you felt that, you know, maybe knowing what you know now, or even at the time, that you would have done differently?
I think the things I got right basically were, as you mentioned, designing HTML and HTTP. HTML was designed to look very much like another language that was already out there.
Yeah.
And so SGML was something which existed. And HTTP was designed very much to look like FTP and SMTP, the simple network protocols out there. So what I did was take existing things that engineers would be familiar with. And so that I think was a good thing.
And that kind of helped adoption.
That helped adoption. That people would look at the web and they think, yeah, I can do that.
It was new, but not too new.
If I pick one area where I'd like to redesign it, that if we could have redesigned the domain name system.
And this is how you get like, you know, www.newscientist.com and that kind of thing. Yeah.
Newscientist.com is rented from a name provider, if you like, for the name system. And the name system is it's hierarchical. So if you want newscientist.com, then you have to go to the people who own .com. And there's only, you know, and so there's one place. So the domain name system has been a weak, I think the way it's been sort of managed, not always for the best, has been one of the weak areas of the web.
Yeah, so how does that play out as an individual? How does that make the web worse for
well,
people?
If you think of a brilliant idea, then probably somebody has already bought yourbrilliantidea.com. You know, so then you have to pay them for it. And so basically, you know, people who run AI programs guessing what domain names people will want to buy, and then buy those up, and then so that you then have to pay over the top. So that's all a bit unfair.
Yeah, and there's another way to do that.
For example, domain name system where once you've got a website, you have it forever, and if you stop maintaining it, it goes to the Internet Archive.
Yeah. There's a line you write in the book where you say something like, you'd known for a while there was something wrong with the web. And so I want to ask you, you know, what is wrong with the web? And was there an inciting incident? When was the moment you started to feel like that was the case?
I think there were two elections at the same time. In 2016, there was both the Brexit election and the first Trump election. So at that point, people started to say, you know what? It's possible that people have been manipulated using social media into voting for something that is not in their best interest. And so in other words, the web has been part of a powerful manipulation of individuals by large organizations.
It feels like with social media, in some ways, it's sort of been on the same journey as the web as a whole, that like at the very beginning, it felt like it was kind of just innocent fun, and you could write whatever you liked on Twitter, and like you were just writing with your friends, and it felt kind of fun and collaborative in that way, and then has started to become a bit more influenced by corporate interest and maybe more problematic. Do you think there's a design flaw in social media, or is it even maybe is there a design flaw in the web, or is it just human nature at play, or what's going on? Why do these things happen?
Combination of things.
Yeah.
Partly it's human nature to be attracted by things which make you angry, so you tend to stay on it, or things which are not true. Yeah. So if a social media feed feeds you something which isn't true, you're more likely to click on it. you're more likely to stay on the platform. And so there's an incentive for misincentive, if you like, for social media platforms to feed you things which make you angry or make you shocked. In the book, I've got a map of all the internet, and most of it is good. So remember that most of it is good. The things which are addictive are just TikTok and Instagram are deliberately designed to keep you on the platform by being addictive. So people end up scrolling through TikTok forever.
Yeah, I really the kind of graph map that you mentioned is really amazing. It's got maybe 100 things on it, kind of mapping out what the web is. And on kind of one side you've got bad, according to Tim Berners-Lee. So you've got the kind of addictive social media algorithm-driven stuff. Is there anything else you'd put on that side? And also, what in your mind is the good side of the web?
Good side is everything else.
Yeah.
Good side is so many things. I mean, things like Wikipedia, things like OpenStreetMap, things like maps in general, things that help you get across town. The bad side is just the addictive side.
Could you have done something different that would have resulted in that not happening? Or is there a change that we could make to the web so that there is much less of this kind of social media misinformation and polarization and addictiveness that you describe?
I can't think of a general sort of change to make to the whole web. So if you want people to not build addictive systems, then you have to specifically outlaw addictive systems, and that's a possibility. So Yuval Noah Harari has suggested in his book, The Nexus, that we should make addictive systems actually legal. That would be regulation for particular sorts of algorithms, which the people make it design and they know who they are.
Yeah, something I kind of asked colleagues about what they would like to ask you, and a few said, if you had youngish kids today, would you let them have a smartphone?
I give them a kid's phone.
Yeah.
So I'd give them a phone where I have parental control over it. They should be able to call me to tell me when they want to be picked up.
Yeah.
They should be able to access Wikipedia to look things up. They should be able to use Google Maps to get home and so on. So it's useful for kids, I think, to learn how to use, depending on the ages, it's good to kids to learn how to use phones.
Yeah.
They find it difficult to avoid I give them the phone without the addictive things on it.
Yeah, in Australia, right, they've got a social media ban in the works for under 16s. Is that a kind of approach that you agree with?
There's a precedent for that. There are lots of other things. People under 16 can't drive.
Yeah. I want to read you a line from a story we published a few months ago that really just kind of struck me. And it's earlier this year, for the first time, web browsing bots rather than humans accounted for the majority of web traffic. So kind of another way of viewing that is in some way the machines are using the internet more than we are. Do you use AI yourself?
Yep.
How do you use it in your daily life?
I ask it general questions. I have Copilot.
Yeah, that's Microsoft's
in my
AI.
Yep. I even when writing an article, I found it helped me complete the article.
Yeah. Are you concerned at all by the way AI is being developed?
The big question there is, am I concerned about containment if it gets super intelligent? So,
is that a real risk, superintelligence?
Yeah, I think so. I think logically, philosophically, you have to imagine this is.
Yeah, so this would be AI that becomes more intelligent than humans, and then the risk is that it doesn't like the humans in one way or another and does things that are against our interests. Is that something that that we can actually do something about?
Well, I think that we should be when we build things which potentially could be super intelligent, we need to be very careful. CERN was a great place to work.
Yeah.
CERN was set up, in fact, because people were worried about the power of nuclear energy and nuclear weapons after the Second World War. So something like CERN for AI sounds like it would be good, where you get all the best people together, get them working on superintelligence, but to do it in a way where everybody can see what's going on. Then you can do it in a sandbox where it can be intelligent but can't argue for its own benefit.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like a great idea, but it feels like maybe
how do you
That's the opposite of what is happening in the world at the moment, where it feels like people are just racing as fast as they can to develop the best possible AIs that they can, so that, for example, the Americans don't lose to China or the other way around.
That's true.
You mentioned something in the book about an AI Hippocratic oath, a kind of should do no harm type of thing. Is that something that can work, like, actually technically?
Oh, that you can do.
And what would it be?
So that's for the individual AI. Then we're not
Yeah.
talking about superintelligence. We're just talking about AI that you use to decide on how to run your life. So yeah, I think, originally when the first AIs that came out were the chat box were like, there was Alexa, but Alexa works for Amazon.
Yeah.
It doesn't work for me, but I want one that works for me, so that when I make a decision, like what shoes should I buy,
Yeah.
then I want an AI which understands me, so it's got to have access to all my personal data, but also it's got to be set up so my interests are its goal. We've done this for doctors, we've done it for lawyers. So if when you go to your doctor, whoever pays your doctor, they're obliged through the Hippocratic Oath to work for you. We're building it at Inrupt. We built one. It's called Charlie.
So Inrupt is a company you're a founder of, and
Yes, I'm a co-founder and CTO with John Bruce. We've done an experiment to find out what happens if you have an AI which actually has all your fitness data, for example, and then you ask it what sort of running shoes you should buy, and then it knows, of course, all of the running shoes out there in the world. And then it knows you, and it says, well, you run through the woods, so you probably need trail shoes, and why don't you buy these? And when it makes that decision, it's making it so that in your best interest. So the systems that we're building, they return this sense of digital sovereignty by giving you a space to store your data. They give you a data wallet or a data pod. Once again, it's like you have your own website. It's a website where you can store data. It's a website where you can collaborate with other people and so on.
So yeah, I'm really interested in this idea about AIs that work for you, and it feels like there's two elements to that. There's like the one, can you trust it? How do you know that the AI is actually working for you? Is that a line in the code? Is that a marketing promise? Like, what does that actually mean? And then there's also the kind of practical basis, like how do you know it respects your data, it's not going to sell it to others, and you keep control of that. And those are things that you're involved with on both sides, right? Can you talk us through a little bit about that?
We build systems where you have control of all your data, a bit like you do. If it's not unusual if you put data in something like Dropbox or you put it in iCloud or Gcloud. The problem with iCloud and Gcloud is that they're only Apple stores stuff in your iCloud. Google apps store stuff in your G drive. And so that basically we don't have any interoperability between. You can't run an Apple app on your Google data. Solid is the protocol which allows you to do that. It allows you to run a Solid compatible app will run on data in any data store.
So this is the Solid protocol. This is what you're working on at Inrupt, the company that you're CTO of.
Yes. So Solid protocol came from MIT like a decade ago. So Solid is a movement out there. Inrupt has decided that Solid was going to be a really important thing further in its bow.
Yeah, so from an individual perspective, I think sometimes these things can kind of be hard to imagine when they're different from what we have now. But if my understanding is correct, it's that currently you might pay for a Photos app and they store your photos, and that's kind of an exchange of data. But in the Solid Inrupt world, you would instead have your own data wallet. Might include some photos, but also might include your health data and your fitness data and your calendar and all of these different things. And then you would choose to share it maybe with an app that helps you organize your photos or something like that, or another app that helps you understand whether you're going for enough walks or something like that. But ultimately, you're in charge of all of that data rather than the other way around.
Yes, absolutely.
So what does that actually unlock? As an individual, obviously that changes the shift of power. But from an actual I want my apps to do cool things and I want my life to be fun and I don't really care about data generally. I just want things that work well and function well. What does this change?
It changes the fact that you can't, with Solid, anything can connect to anything like the web. But whereas at the moment, for example, if you want to suppose you want to share some photographs which are on Facebook with your friends on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
You can't do that. You have to actually move. You have to put.
Yeah, I've got to kind of download them individually and then post them somewhere else. Or
yes. So all of that, all of these. So Solid means that you can use LinkedIn functionality and Facebook functionality, but in a linked way, so that you're not stuck in the walled gardens of Facebook and LinkedIn.
Can it work without buy-in from the existing walled gardens? Don't you need Facebook and LinkedIn to say, all right, we're going to work with the Solid protocol?
Nope. Because people are still building new systems outside Facebook, which people bit by bit will realize are more healthier to be in, more powerful. So they'll say, let's do this in the Solid app because it's more powerful. Because I want to be able to do all kinds of things with this discussion afterwards. So if we have discussion on Facebook, we won't be able to do those things.
How far along this journey are we? Are there existing apps that people can use that use this protocol, or are we still?
At the moment, it's really the developers are. But but if you're a developer, this is the time to definitely get involved. And if you go to solidproject.org, the Open Data Institute is now coordinating gently in a year or two. I imagine there'll be some tipping point.
What are you most excited about in terms of the future? You've seen your creation spread across the world in just the most amazing way. What is it that excites you about the next few years and what could happen next with the web?
Well, the Solid ecosystem.
Yeah.
They're moving from the attention economy to an intention economy. The attention economy is when there's all of the apps on your phone vying for your attention. All of the advertisers vying for your attention.
Yeah, this is where we're in now, right? I open my phone, there's 27 different push notifications, all wanting my interest, and to click on a story or play a game or do something else.
So the intention economy is when you get up in the morning and you think, well, I'm going to write a book. And then you sit down and then you call up some people and you put together, you use apps to do what you want to do. For example, if you want to buy something, you want to buy, or you want to choose a holiday. And so you you decide, you use an app which helps you specify what sort of app or holiday you want. And then you go out there on the public web and you say, this is the sort of holiday I'm looking for. Can anybody find me that? And then all the advertisers, they see what your intent is. And then you broadcast your intent to have a great vacation. And so all the people who can provide the services then connect up to that. And they offer it to you. So the intention economy works well. It's more empowering for the individual.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what does this actually look like? Is this where things like ChatGPT and stuff is going? They're all talking about AI agents that do your kind of bidding for you. And are you imagining in the intention economy, you go to a chatbot, tell it what you want, and then this process happens?
Oh, totally. Yes. The agents are designed, a good agent will work for you. Yeah. And it will go out there and it will talk to you about what you want. It'll help you think out what you need. Yeah. And then it'll be able to go out there in the intention economy mode and find all the things which match that.
One question I really want to ask you is, why are you so optimistic? It feels like that is just oozing in your book. It's oozing through when you speak. And yet I saw someone describe kind of the last 35 years of yours, like basically you invented the wheel and then you've survived to see someone driving around a BMW and crashing into a Lime bike. Why, given all of that, are you still so optimistic?
I think because of the people I work with. So the open source developers are they're all there because they realize that we could build a better world, and they're just working towards that. And whether they succeed or not, they want to spend their time working towards it.
And then just kind of looking to the future, we're kind of 35 odd years in now. Where do you imagine the web goes in the next 35?
Really hard to predict.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, it's an impossible question.
Because it's moving so quickly. So things will change in 35 years. Maybe there'll be some things will be the same. Maybe URLs will be the same. but everything. But the world will be very different. AI will make the world very different.
Yeah. Do you have a kind of a best case scenario, you know, that like this is what you really want it to be like in a decade's time or a few decades' time?
Best case scenario, we have very powerful AI, which solves a lot of the world's problems. It finds cures for cancer, for example, and even rare diseases. And so in my best possible world, we've got those results.
Yeah, that sounds like an amazing future. I've got as we're kind of coming towards the end, I just wanted to ask a few kind of quick fire questions. One that people are desperate to ask you is, do you accept cookies?
Yes, I do.
Do you ever read the cookie descriptions?
With Pi.ai. Pi.ai is AI works for you. And I wanted to be able to trust it, so I read the terms and conditions completely from beginning to end. That's the only time I've read them.
Yeah, you just accept otherwise like everyone else.
Yeah.
What about, should we be concerned about the environmental impact of the web and the internet at large?
I'm not an expert on that. And I think to a certain extent it's changing all the time. It changes when people make a more efficient AI algorithm. In general, yeah, we should be careful about our energy usage. But the extent, yes, I'm not up to speed with how much each click costs you.
I was one of the things I was really fascinated to read in your book, both the most recent one and also the previous one, is just how interested you were in the idea of a kind of 3D web, a sort of metaverse type thing. And it seemed like in 1999 that like it was on the cusp, but never came to fruition. But it seems to be such a intriguing idea for so many people involved in tech, and yet it also still feels a long way away. Why?
Yes.
Do you still believe it's coming one day? And why is it so intriguing for people?
The 3D web, yeah, the fact that my homepage could actually be a sort of home that you could a 3D space you could go through, and the links will just be doors which go through from my world into your world, for example. Yep, that's very first web conference. We were all convinced that was going to be the web was going to go 3D really soon. But it hasn't. You know, there was a thing called Second Life, which is a 3D world.
Yeah.
Back in the day, that may still exist, but it hasn't taken over the world. And obviously, with metas going into 3D worlds. On the other side, in Atlantic Studios, the other day we tried on some headsets, tried on some Apple systems, and found that it is pretty amazing to be on the moon or on Mars. Or to be in the presence of a dinosaur, 3D dinosaur to discuss. So you could argue that the reason that 3D hadn't worked was just the headsets weren't quite big enough, good enough. They weren't fast enough. They weren't, okay, so when you moved your head, you got a little bit of nausea because you got a little bit of jar. The world would move when you moved your head. So if we get to the place where really that's all gone, maybe it's just around the corner.
Maybe it's just around the corner. Amazing. All right, on that note, thank you so much for your time, Tim Berners-lee. It's been amazing talking to you.
Thank you very much.